Aye. Good. Yeah. Guys, my name is Godfrey. I'm from Mobilize, part of VET, and I'm a student at VET. And, I'm part of the guys that are interested in science. That renewable thing that we've been talking about is quite one of my interests. First question here was, what is civil society currently doing towards a just transition? What we have discussed with our panel, with some of our members, was that we should organize shutdowns so that the community can have more voice and power. Okay. Also, there was somebody from Life that said climatic justice movement, and they suggested that we should work on convergence, more organized as a group that will help us. In other words, as a group or united we stand and divided we fall. So as a group we've got more voice and more power than one as an individual. And also we can collaborate networks and have a much wider knowledge base as a group. And as we share ideas, we have that knowledge base that we can share. That increases our enlightenment and negotiation for a better outcome. Okay? Second question was, how can a climate justice charter advance the deep and transformative, just transition in South Africa? Okay, it raises mass awareness. People work on different aspects that may affect climatic change. Okay, you have your schools, and we see in high schools where they do assemblies and stuff. You can actually use that platform to disseminate the knowledge and use children's activists like youth groups, and those they actually give. Because what we say, we as a group have said that children are the future of the nation, and as children they must be given the platform to actually engage in some of the issues that that concern their future. Somebody in the panel earlier on mentioned that the future generation justice, so we should not deform or affect their future by neglecting to deal with issues like climatic change now. So we must act when we can. That's what we are. That's our priorities in raising awareness. That's for question 2. And then question 3. Question 3 was, what should be the main themes in such a charter? Accountability from those in power, and also government regulations should have the right policies that actually deal with climatic change. We also spoke about the Kyoto Protocol, and that suggests that citizens must know that they are obliged to do some work or contribute in dealing with climatic changes or conserving our planet to counteract the changes that are occurring in our ozone layer or whatever. And the fourth question was, what do you think about the participatory process towards a climatic justice charter and just transition? Okay. What we think is everybody must know that they are obliged. In other words, since you are a human being and you are part of the planet, you're actually obliged to participate or cooperate in some of the activities that relate to conserving the planet. Because at the end of the day, it's your home, it's your place. You gotta take care of it. And also, the regulations that are put in place must manipulate our natural resources in such a way that the wastes that come out do not affect the future Earth life. And in other words, no dumping of these things in the seas. Just to mention something, I've heard about this other, I don't know if it's Malaysia or something, where they take the human waste, every dump thing, whatever, like the human waste that you find from cities and stuff, they use that, they burn it, and then they go and dump it in the sea, and they create it in such a way that it doesn't affect their planet or their area. So in other words, whatever we do our policies should be in such a way that they manipulate our resources, our natural resources, in a way that the wastes are not corroding our earth. Question 5 was, does the organization want to participate in the process? For all our organizations that were there, they said they would like to get involved in the process. And involvement guarantees information and better knowledge about our policy, about our earth. Question 6 was, how can we mobilize our constituencies? We have organizational tools, we have different organizations in different places. Those organizations can be contacted through social media to reach the public, and also we can use individuals that are managing those or different organizations. In other words, when you relate them and we give them the kind of information that we want on our climatic justice charter, that information can be disseminated through the leadership of those organizations. That will help to fast track the dissemination. Question 7 was, what's question 7?
The role of social media.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Okay, yeah. What is the role of social media in involving citizens in the conversation about a climate justice charter? Social media gives a voice. In other words, anybody and anyone, anyway, can quickly make a contribution to a topic without feeling intimidated or without feeling anyhow. They can give their view of a certain issue. And also, social media is a platform to disseminate information faster and quickly and more directively to every other social groups. Because even if you are Afrikaans and you're Zulu, you still have access to some social media and some groups that actually deal with those ethnic groups. So if you disseminate knowledge through social media, it actually reaches a lot of other people with the proper information. Question 8 was, which civil, how am I doing in time?
Yeah, wrap it up.
Okay.
No, you're not doing well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, question 8 was, which civil society organization or individuals should we approach to be part of the process? So in other words, if we are to deal with the Climatic Justice Charter, who should we approach? We have stated that almost 18 million of the population of South Africa, we have what, like 53, 54, right? And of that, 18 million is children. So obviously, you can see how much the bigger chunk of the population is what? Is children. So the involvement of children in such processes is highly imperative. 53% of those children live in cities. So what does that mean? They are deeply affected by this communal living. And we can use communities as well, faith-based organizations, like your churches, your different youth-based organizations which are Christian-based or any other religion. Then you have NGOs, those non-governmental organizations. Then you have other academic institutions as well. They can be approached to be involved. And question 9 was, what are some of the challenges and how can we overcome them to achieve a climate justice charter process for SA? Well, there are so many challenges, and one of those challenges is the resources. You see, the manipulation of our resources is really causing a lot of headaches. You find mining companies coming and doing their mining, but their processes, I think it's the knowledge. Because if you have good science, you'll find out that there is always a way of making a chemical process or whatever you do without affecting your environment. In other words, if you have chemical waste, there is ways of dealing with waste, chemical waste or all the other waste without affecting the natural environment. And the other thing was unwillingness from government. Well, somebody just stated that our government is not willing, is not willing to get involved much. And that's a problem because government has to be involved in the climatic justice charter. We have apathy and consumerism and corruption. All these are other issues that actually affect or rather contribute to the challenges on climatic justice charter. Okay. Thank you.
And then different answers were given. We said that recycling is being done. Like people are doing different things. So recycling is being done, and then we also need to explain recycling to people and why it should be done. We're also doing training. We're training local communities. We are having demonstration sites whereby we are practicing agroecology. We have co-ops doing organic farming. There also what needs to be improved on. We said that we have to have more awareness on this matter of the just transition, and then we also need to do more advocacy programs. We need to focus and take on government on the issues of the just transition. We also need to make people on the ground understand the concept of a just transition, because a lot of people do not understand what is being meant by just transition. And then with question 2, how can a climate justice charter advance the deep and transformative just transition in South Africa? We said that we have to go to communities and explain. We have to get deeper into the community, people on the ground. And then we said that the people that are here, as we are coming from different organizations, we need to go back into our communities, and we need to mobilize on the charter, and also we need to discuss the issues of the climate justice charter. And also the charter needs to be a continental model, whereby it doesn't just remain here in South Africa, we need to spread it. And then question 3, what should be the main themes in such a charter? We said that with regards to this question, it would depend on an environment, because you will go to the communities in the rural depth, and then you would hear that, like a farmer would say that for them the issue would be water. They would have maybe no problem with energy, because they would do a fire outside, or because right now they're doing something that's called the biodigester, whereby you collect waste and then that waste is being turned into energy. So it would depend on the different environments. And then we said that the main things that need to be included in the charter would be water, food, and also energy. And then question 4, what do you think about the participatory process towards a climate justice charter and just transition? We said that it starts off with small conversations like the ones that we're having right now, and then it spreads. It is a chain reaction. It's a bottom-up approach. We have people here who will spread the message to the others who are not here. And then with question 5, does your organization want to participate in the process? We said that yes, or we are already organizations who are participating in this process. And then question 6, how can we mobilize our constituencies? We said that the people who are here would have to go back and mobilize the others on the ground. We need to look at the needs of the constituencies. We also need to look at the issue of funding, because we find that back there we don't have funding, we struggle with funding. So we need to look at local entrepreneurs who want to support the cause. And then question 7, what is the role of social media in involving citizens in the conversation about a climate justice charter? The role of social media is to be used as a tool to give out knowledge and develop. Social media is needed. We went on to discuss that social media is it's accessible to everyone, but not everyone understand social media. Like you'll find that there's Twitter, there's Facebook, and then the old ones do not like really go more and more often on Twitter or on Facebook. So it is the youth need to conscientize the old ones on what's happening on social media, because we know what's happening. You go on Twitter and you find out, you know what happened in Johannesburg 5 seconds ago, whereas you are in Port Elizabeth. So we need to conscientize the old ones. And we also said that we have a method that some of us use.
The elders.
The elders, yeah. We download videos on YouTube, like your environmental videos. So you gather the elders in one space and then you show them what's happening on the videos, you explain. And then question 8, which civil society organization or individuals should we approach to be part of the process? We said that all sectors need to be approached. We need to work with everyone who understands the cause, and also those who do not understand the cause, we need to make sure that they do understand the cause and we give them the knowledge. Question 9, what are some of the challenges and how can we overcome them to achieve a climate justice charter process in SA? There were a number of challenges. One of the challenges would be resources, mobilization, developing a new vocabulary, and then we said that we need to understand, we need to make people listen, because we have people who do not want to listen. We need to look at ways on how we could make those people listen to this cause. And then we also, how can we overcome this? We need to hold a range of workshops like this, and then we also need to look at the documents that are being given out. You'll find that there's a lot of big language that's being used. We need to look at ways on how to simplify the language so that it can be user friendly for the other people. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Nombule Melieze from Benchmark Foundation. Okay, let's start. I was part of the group 3, which is, we came with the answers for, I believe that as a house we'll find a amicable solution after the whole interventions with all the groups. So this is what we came up with. What is the civil society currently doing towards a just transition? What could be improved on? Okay. As group 3, it's organizational. Organizations such as your trade unions, your policy interventions could actually play a huge role, and mobilization, awareness, and mitigation and integration. And then question 2, how can the climate justice charter advance and deepen a transformative just transition in South Africa? We can improve, I need to go back to number 1, which is B. So how can we improve? So we can improve by convergence, mass democratic in rural areas, creating a sense of agency at the grassroots level, language that can be accessible to the masses, regular public meetings to the structures on the ground. Those are that we can improve on number 1. So number 2, the question is how can climate justice charter advance and deepen the transformative just transition in South Africa? I'm sorry about this. It's my first time.
That's okay, you're doing well.
It's all over the place. We can advance in having a legalized guide, ownership of the charter that can galvanize the people. Use it to hold the government to account on accountability. Question 3. What should be the main themes in such a charter? The role of the state, industry, civil society, inclusivity, alternatives, production and consumption. Obligation role, climate friendly. Then number 4. What do you think about the participatory process towards a climate justice charter and just transition? Well, we think that creating a platform at a grassroots level would be the best way to go, creating an understanding about the charter and involving the masses and at the grassroots level. That's what we think. And then number 5, does the organization want to participate in the process? Definitely yes. How can we mobilize our constituency? We can do that by creating a platform at the grassroots level and creating an understanding for everybody in the masses to actually engage and participate. What is the role of the social media involving the citizens and conversation about a climate change justice charter? Okay. The role that it can play, we can create a platform. We can create a platform at a grassroots level and involve all the parties that are actually there, and also invite other. There are also many activities that at the grassroots level you find them not actually being part of the communities and all the issues that are actually affecting us in our communities. We can do that in terms of media. Which civil society organization and individual should be approached to be part of the process? We can, actually it's all of them. Small scale farmers, experts and traditional healers. We can involve them, and those are the organizations that I feel that we should actually invite in terms of. It's all of them, actually. We can't say this one is right and this one is not right. Okay, I'm shaking. I'm sorry.
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Almost there.
Okay, I'm almost there. What are some of the challenges and how can we overcome them to achieve a climate justice charter process in South Africa? 1, the knowledge gap. The challenge that we actually have is the knowledge gap. It's a huge challenge. The convergence. And to make the climate charter our number 1 priority. Corporate monopoly, ignorance, lack of agency, lack of mobilization and funding. Those are the challenges that we see. And also influence the globalization, influence the wealthy nations. Those are the challenges that we have. And then B, what are the solutions? Having a dedicated budget and making a charter our number 1 priority and a national agenda. On national agenda. Thank you.
Good morning. Our group, on question 1, the response was as follows. Working in silos, we think that we are still working in silos as various groups within civil society and the working class. So we have to build solidarity. And we also discussed that climate change is complex and needs to be simplified. The language needs to be simplified, and we need to build awareness. But having said that, we also agreed that capitalism is the main cause of climate change. Climate change is just a symptom of a problem that is there, and that problem is capitalism. And we felt that it would be maybe not difficult to explain what capitalism is, but we felt that it's also not complicated, because there is no reason why people should go to bed hungry when there is no more than enough food in this world. There is no reason why our children should be wearing rags when there is enough clothes. There is no reason why we should be living in sheds when there is enough building materials and more than enough willing workers. So we're not running short of anything. So capitalism is the main issue that stands on our way in getting these necessary basic fundamental needs. And so therefore it's very easy to explain to any other person, like, you know, on the streets or in our villages, townships and workplace. How can a climate just charter advance the deep and transformative just transition? Strive for reforms, or we strive for reforms under capitalist system. Like for instance, we removed Thabo Mbeki, we removed Jacob Zuma, and if Cyril Ramaphosa gives us a problem, he will be removed. So we always strive for these reforms, but once we have achieved the reforms, we sit back and go to a trance until next time that we feel that, like, no, things are not going right, and then we start reorganizing again. So we think the reforms that we fight for, whether it's just transition, or it's renewable energies for this campus, or it's social welfare grants or whatever, you know, those things have to be fought for, but they are not sustainable as long as capitalism dominates. So we have to, again, like, you know, focus on fighting capitalism whilst we are promoting these alternative ways of doing things and living. And some of the themes that we alluded to are as follows. Land use is important, what relationship we have with the land and how we use it, water, food, energy, ecology, education, health, consumption patterns and production patterns. And there could be others, like, you know, that we didn't speak on, but, like, yeah, these are some of the areas or themes or issues that we think we should be addressing, but not limited to only to this. What do you think about the participatory process towards a climate just charter and just transition? Build participatory dialogue before elections. So we think the process like this should have started long time ago. You know, it should not be starting, like, you know, a few months before the elections next year. It should have been an ongoing process since after the last elections or even before the last election. So building participatory spaces where people can come together, you know, and share and fight to sustain or to maintain these reforms, because the reforms that we have can be cloned back at any time that the capitalist interest, like, you know, wants to take over. So we have to continuously defend and advance. And without doing so and going to a sleep, the reforms will be taken away. So we have to build, like, you know, these participatory spaces. What is the political party's position and strategy to deal with climate change? So we needed to put, like, you know, this, like, you know, as it was suggested earlier on this morning, that we needed to put a manifesto or a charter like this, like we are discussing, to all the political parties, you know, and challenge their positions on various issues. And a charter should also make connections between various community struggles or community issues. We felt that, like, you know, our struggles are disjointed right now. You have your housing assembly in Cape Town, you have your water struggles happening there, you have your small-scale farmers there, you have your fees must fall there, but all these struggles, like, you know, need to come together. And the climate, I mean, the charter should be, in a way, helping, like, you know, to connect these struggles together. Charter can be a way to build political power from below. We vote, and when we vote, we are giving away the little political power we have in this society. And now we needed to develop ways through which we can hold on our political power without giving it away. So when we vote politicians that were not going to be able to hold to account at the end of the day, we are, like, shooting ourselves on the feet, and at the end of the day we'll be ending up, you know, when you milk a bull, when you milk a bull, you don't get milk. And also, when you hope that the ANC or the DA is going to deliver, that's similar to someone who's milking a bull. So we need to keep our political power so that we don't give it to people who are not going to be easy or who are not going to be accountable at the end of the day. Does your organization want to participate in the process? the reason why we're here, like, maybe we were invited as individuals or we have official mandates from our organizations. The feeling is that we should be going back to report back to our communities. And this is similar to what had happened in Cape Town last week when we have the water dialogues, which were organized by Chinchamakaya, SPP, and Blue Water Solutions. The conclusion was that we should go back to our communities, to our organizations, and share whatever was discussed there and the resolutions that were arrived upon, and come back to the next round table with much more clearer mandate and concern from the constituencies that we represent. So this should be an ongoing way of holding ourselves to account, so that we're not just representing our heads or our heads here. We know that what we bring here is really derived from the participation of people from our constituencies. How do we mobilize constituencies? Start at local levels in communities, like community-based organizations, your trade unions, your movements that are already there. And we went on to say, in regard to all those things that we have identified, there are already existing movements in South Africa. It's not like we're starting from scratch. We have the Housing Assembly, we have a number of groups that have emerged in Cape Town as a result of the water crisis. We have small-scale farmers movements, and so on. So we need to be speaking to all those groups, which some of them are here and some of them are not here. And we need to organize at provincial levels. We need to meet on a more regular basis, at different spaces. And we need maybe to create different centers that can speak to one another and connect, rather than to centralize everything under one group of people that can easily manipulate everything. So we need to organize differently, and we need to hold ourselves accountable. What is the role of the social media involving citizens in the conversation about climate change? We think it is important because it will attract youth. We need to spin it in a way that it can speak to various audiences. If you are speaking with your farmers in my village, you cannot rely on Facebook and Twitter. You need a different form of communication with those people. If you are speaking to students here at VETS, you cannot use the very same way we have used in my village with the elders there. So you need to put your message in the correct form, and also using the correct media, dependent on a particular group that you want to interact with. So we must have targeted audiences. We must use all the various different forms of media, and it must be in a creative form. It should not be long. Comrades should stop selling long Facebook things. The messages should be short. It could be short videos. It could be something similar to what we have seen here this morning, but again, it could also be made short. So we can use all those tools. Which civil society organizations or individuals should we approach? Those themes speak to the very same civil society organizations. So you have your farmers organizations, you have your water groups, you have your traditional healers, the faith-based children's movement, trade unions, etc. So all the themes that we have identified, we need to speak to the relevant social groups that they are organizing or created by those people involved along on the side of those themes. What are some of the challenges, and how can we overcome them to achieve climate justice charter process in South Africa? We think that people are aware. I was surprised one time when I visited my village, more than 10 years ago. My grandfather was speaking with a neighbor, and they were talking about El Nino. And I was surprised, these people, they were really old, like they passed away some time ago. But they were talking about El Nino, which was a form of a drought which was engulfing the country during that time. So people are aware that there are changes that are happening in the environment, but they might not be deep and broad enough in terms of understanding. So we should not take them for granted that they are unaware and they need to be conscientized, or their consciousness needs to be raised. We need to deepen and broaden the consciousness that is already there, and we need to learn from them too. Government is a big challenge, build the counter power. So we need to build an alternative power, like to the power that exists right now, which can take our struggles forward. Thank you.
I am Nelson, and then in my group, it was 2 of us from UNALA. It was the PHA campaign and the SDCEA. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first question. What is civil society currently doing towards a just transition? So we are saying what we are seeing currently in our group is that like civil society currently, like they are organizing workshops, they are getting the word out there, like there's more communication, there's dialogue that is taking on, and then like there's a certain change within society now, even within academic spaces, whereby the narrative now of training skilled laborers, like we are moving towards a system whereby we are not training skilled individuals who are going to feed in this carbon-intensive economy, but actually we are changing the narrative now and saying like green economy is the way. Reason why you are seeing like new modules that are being introduced in academic spaces such as environmental sociology and everything like that. However, we feel that it shouldn't be limited to academic spaces only. Even in basic education, this is something that should be introduced as an early stage. Children shouldn't wait to get into academic spaces like your higher education in order to know that climate change is a reality and then it is actually happening. So what could be improved on? We are saying now we need to improve the dialogue that is actually taking place. We need to educate those who are actually having less information. Like such conferences, we believe that at the end of the day, like it shouldn't be behind closed doors, but then we should also take them outside there, because the reality or the truth of the matter within our country, we feel like the illiteracy rate is extremely high. So now we need to find a way of bridging the gap between those two, because at the end of the day, climate change doesn't discriminate, it affects everybody equally, irrespective of the education background. And then another thing what can be done, what we are seeing is that there's growing resistance within the ground. Just a quick example, what we've actually come up across is that we are actually hitting the nerve complex, but then we need to keep the narrative going. There's a certain PEC member of the ANC who actually tweeted the other day that these people of Tolobe who are resisting development, they are actually irritating. And then we think it's beautiful, we're getting somewhere, but the narrative needs to keep on going, and then we need to hold our leaders accountability, and strengthen environmental movements. Now, question 2, how can the Climate Charter advance the deep and transformative just transition in South Africa? We think that like the climate charter is actually the blueprint that will create unity and mobilize the masses towards a common vision and a common goal in order for us all to be able to achieve a collective just transition. So now, moving on to question 3, what should be the main themes of such a charter? One thing that is important is that the EIA, to begin with, it needs to be transformed. As it stands, we believe that it is captured because now it's in favor of the developer and the consultant that is actually hired. So now the alternative that we are proposing, have an institution such as a Chapter 9 institution, but that is going to be independently run, and then as a result, like it widens the scope and then it makes the scope fair, everybody is represented, everybody's views are taken into consideration, and then we're not just going for development for the sake of development. And then question 4, what do you think about the participatory process towards a climate justice charter and just transition? So the process should start now before the UN process. It must be presented at the United Nations and then within the global scale, but then it should be people-led, and then in addition to that, we feel like within societies, within communities, those who are involved like in local government politics, we should have portfolios that address climate change within like communities. it shouldn't be a situation whereby it's left for the elites when they're going to the United Nations. And then we also need to strengthen environmental movements within our communities. And then question 5, does the organization want to participate in the process? Well, we think unless if there's somebody who has another planet that they can firstly eject to, the answer will be no. But this is the only planet we have, so a no is not an option. It has to be a yes. And then question 6, how can we mobilize our constituencies? Okay, like the question of mobilization, all sectors of society, we think that it starts with the organizations, all of our organizations that we are affiliated with, but then we should build networks that, it shouldn't be your organization you are doing that. Build networks, share information, like talk to amongst each other, and then if we're connecting this network, at the end of the day, to one big network that is a force to be reckoned with. And then question 7, question 8 rather, which civil society organization should we approach to be part of the process? Okay, question 8, we say all organizations, they should be approached like without discrimination, like all of us, we are facing the common challenge here. So like it shouldn't be a matter of we are approaching such an organization. All of us were important and all of us should participate in this process. And in question 9, like what are some of the challenges and how we can overcome and achieve a climate just charter, a process for South Africa. So the challenges is the issue of resources. We think that at the end of the day, like the research is not actually being shared equally amongst the spectrums of society. So now we need to share all our findings. Like knowledge is power. Before we get to the issue of money, if people are enlightened and then they know what actually is going on, because if the city of Cape Town is talking about day 0 and then somebody in Johannesburg is spilling a 20 liter of water and then taking a video saying hello Cape Town, it shows there's something, and then we as organizations, there's something that we're really doing. So like knowledge, and then we can get to the issue of resources. So there must be a link between civil society, labor, academic institutions, and then all of us, if like we are in the same scope, in the same boat, and then it's only then that we can achieve. So I actually skipped the question, the role of the social media. There was a quote that was made, it says like, take the wisdom of an elderly with the strength of a young person, and then we have something amazing to work with. So what we are saying is the young people, they understand social media, but the elders, they have knowledge. Combine them together, that's the role of your social media. Thank you.
Amandla! Away. Comrades, our approach as COPAC, a vibrant affiliate of the SAFC, is that whenever we convene these spaces, these are learning spaces for all of us. It's not us imparting knowledge, it's everybody imparting knowledge. So I want to congratulate everyone in the room for sharing their perspectives, inputting into the deliberations, contributing ideas, and enriching our knowledge commons. That's key to our practice, comrades. We don't come into these processes having all the answers. We don't know what should happen next. So what you did over the past day and a half was help us collectively find our way forward. Which relates to the second issue we've achieved here. We've achieved convergence. That word has been used. We have started building convergence. That is a major outcome of the past day and a half. We have started, if you like, on a journey with the sense of purpose. We have committed now to all own this charter process. Yes, you can go back to your organizations. Yes, there must be further deliberations. But I think what we are all saying going forward is that in our networks, in our communities, in our organizations, we are all going to be custodians of this process, of this initiative. So that convergence has begun. And I must say, comrades, it's a historic convergence. This is a very, very important initiative. I don't want to exaggerate it, but I do think in the context of where we are in the country, in terms of the climate challenge that we are facing, this is a defining initiative. It will play a very, very crucial role in terms of the future of the country, in my view. I think the third important thing that we've achieved is a sense of being a collective. We are struggling on different fronts. We are engaged at different flashpoints. We are confronting various challenges, all with our own organizations, in our communities, etc. And we're doing amazing work with limited resources, etc. But there's something that inspires. The fact that we are all trying our best. We are all trying to rise to the challenge. That is very, very important. And I think that spirit prevailed here. There is a potential for a network. So we don't have a blueprint, comrades, about what institutional form must come out of this. I think we must have a processual approach to this. We must keep it unfolding, and it must unfold from below. Okay? We've been doing that with the SAFC. We're in an exciting place to build food sovereignty in villages, towns, and so we're doing it here at WITS. For us, this is one pilot project as COPAC, and we're going to do it. We're going to end hunger for 800 students at this university that queue up every day, when we're going to take it into the inner city. I'm hoping everyone else is doing the same in our SAFC process. So similarly, I think the idea is let's build wherever we are, and let's connect up the dots. So that also means, comrades, we'll have a creative conversation as we go down this road. How do we put the bits together, etc., etc.? And how do we find, if you like, an institutional form, an institutional mechanism that can make it work? I think the fourth very important thing, comrades, that we've achieved now, building on our resolve, building on our collective will to address this big challenge, is the prospect of momentum. I think all the knowledge shared, all the passion shared, all the inspiration that has come to the fore, comrades, requires us to keep the momentum going. We have started on the journey. We've taken the first few steps. So what is very, very crucial, comrades, is that you deepen the convergence. So please, go back to your organizations and share. Share what's come out of this conversation. Use your convening power in your community, in your networks, to start the conversation. The power is in your hands. The initiative is in your hands. Use the tools. So we've made one modest contribution to the conversation that can happen on the ground. We're going to share with you okay, great. So we've got the DVDs, both the isiXhosa version as well as the English version of the animation we've shared with you. We've shared our water guide with you. But other organizations in this room also have tools. And you have some of your own tools on the ground. So please, let's make this work. Let's catalyze. Let's energize. Let's initiate, and so on. So we will reconvene, and I'll say something about this. But I don't think we want to reconvene where, again, people come back here and there's no sense of vibrancy. There's no sense of this is a living initiative with hands and feet and motion and movement. If that is the case, then this is activist tourism. But I know the people in the room here are serious people. And I think that's why we also invited you. So we are expecting this thing to take root. I think the fifth important achievement, comrades, is that we've got a strategic framework. So the feedback we've got from the deliberation, some of that we will embellish the document with that we have. We will revise. But in the main, we've got a way forward. We appreciate the role of social media. We appreciate the role of our own networks. We appreciate, if you like, the importance of a mass politics. So we have a framework that we can all work with and deepen and so on. So that's very, very important. So we have a sense of where we're going, the phases, etc. I think the sixth important thing, comrades, is that we really need to stay in touch. We need to remain connected. So from our side, we're going to put all your contact information on our Google list. We have a Google list, the South African Food Sovereignty Campaign Google list, and let's use that platform to dynamize. So please, if you have a conversation, say in Philippines, feed that conversation back on that Google list and say, comrades, we started the conversation. So in Pietermaritzburg, here in Active Citizens Movement and the faith-based communities you work with, if you'll start this conversation, feed it back into that list. This will inspire each other. The Children's Resource Center, the Children's Movement, if they get things going, or Makta and your school and so on, and vice versa, and Imran is sitting in various networks, etc. The Inala students, if we can get you to input into this network and say, right, we've convened, we've had a discussion, this is our commitment, this is what we are going to be doing, that will be very inspiring. I think the other thing, of course, comrades, is the vote of thanks. And firstly, a big round of applause to all of you for coming. We know that you are busy, we know you're engaged activists, you're live wires wherever you are, and so we do know that taking time out is also a sacrifice and reflection of your commitment. I also want to thank comrades, Comrade Jane, Comrade Aisha, and Comrade Courtney. They did a lot of the backroom organizing for this event. And then finally, I'd like to thank, of course, the Cooperative and Policy Alternative Center, but most importantly, our funder, the Frederick Ebert Stiftung, for making this happen. So comrades, it's not over. I think we have a lot of work ahead of us, exciting work, and if we get it right, we will have a great impact. Amanda!